On my graduation day, my parents threw a party for my sister instead. I left and cut contact. That was 3 months ago. Yesterday, they showed up at my new place begging me to forgive them. So picture this. I'm sitting in my tiny studio apartment, scrolling through TikTok with a bowl of leftover Kraft mac and cheese when I hear this frantic knocking at my door. For real, it sounded like someone was about to break the thing down. I'm thinking maybe it's my neighbor asking to borrow something again, or maybe the delivery guy with the wrong package. But when I peek through that little peephole, my heart straight up drops to my stomach. It's them, my parents, standing there, looking all disheveled and desperate like they've been driving around for hours trying to find me, which knowing them, they probably had been. Mom's mascara is running a little, and Dad's got that nervous tick where he keeps adjusting his baseball cap. The same Detroit Tigers cap he's worn to every single one of my school events since kindergarten. Well, almost every single one. I haven't seen them since that day 3 months ago. The day that should have been one of the proudest moments of my life, but instead became the moment I realized where I actually stood in their eyes. The day I graduated summa cum laude from college with a degree in engineering, a full scholarship to grad school lined up, and absolutely nobody there to celebrate with me except my roommate Sarah and her family, who basically adopted me for the ceremony. But let me back up and tell you the whole mess from the beginning, because honestly, it's still so wild to me that I can barely believe it happened. So 3 months ago, I'm getting ready for my graduation ceremony. I'd been planning this day for months. No cap. Had my cap and gown pressed and hanging perfectly. In my closet. Bought a new dress for the family dinner afterward. Even made reservations at this nice steakhouse downtown. Nothing too fancy, just a place where we could celebrate properly. I'd worked my tail off for 4 years, pulling all-nighters in the engineering lab, surviving on energy drinks and determination, and I was finally about to walk across that stage. My sister, let's call her Emma, had been acting weird all week. She's 3 years younger than me, still in high school, and honestly, we'd never been super close. Not enemies or anything, just different. She was always the artistic one, into theater and music, while I was the numbers and science kid. Mom and Dad always said they were proud of both of us, but looking back, I can see the signs I missed. The morning of graduation, I wake up early, already buzzing with excitement. I've got my outfit laid out, my makeup planned, the whole 9 yards. I go downstairs expecting to find everyone getting ready to head out together, maybe grab some breakfast before the ceremony. Instead, I find Mom in the kitchen frantically making what looks like enough food to feed a small army. "Morning, Mom," I say, grabbing a cup of coffee. "You're up early. We don't need to leave for another few hours." She looks up at me with this weird expression, like she's seeing a ghost or something. "Oh, honey, about that." And that's when Emma comes bouncing down the stairs, wearing this gorgeous new sundress I'd never seen before, her hair all done up in these perfect curls. She looks amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it's weird because she's not even graduating. Why is she more dressed up than I am? "What's going on?" I ask, that little knot starting to form in my stomach. Mom sets down the mixing bowl she's holding and takes a deep breath. "Well, Emma got some really exciting news yesterday, and we thought it would be nice to have a little celebration." I'm standing there waiting for her to continue, waiting for her to explain how this relates to my graduation, when Emma pipes up with this huge grin on her face. "I got the lead in the spring musical," she announces. "They called yesterday afternoon. Sarah Thompson dropped out and they offered it to me. Now, don't get me wrong, that's great news for Emma. Really it is. She's been wanting that part all semester, but I'm confused about why we're having a party for this today, of all days." "That's awesome, Em," I say, trying to keep my voice level. "But what about graduation? We need to leave in like 2 hours." The silence that follows is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mom and Emma exchange this look, and I swear I can feel my world starting to tilt sideways. "Well," Mom says slowly, "Emma's friends are coming over in an hour to celebrate, and your dad is picking up a cake from Kroger. We thought we could do a little party here first, and then maybe meet you at the restaurant afterward for dinner." I blink at her, like actually blink, because I can't process what she just said. "Meet me at the restaurant? You're not coming to graduation?" "Honey, we've been to so many of your academic things over the years," Dad says, appearing in the doorway, like he's been listening to the whole conversation. And this is really important for Emma. It's her first lead role. I feel like I'm in some kind of alternate universe, like I've woken up in the wrong house, in the wrong family. "Dad, it's my college graduation. I'm graduating summa cum laude. I'm the first person in our family to get an engineering degree. And we're very proud of you," Mom says quickly. "That's why we made the dinner reservation. We'll celebrate tonight." Update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support so far. Reading these comments is honestly making me feel less crazy about the whole situation. Some people are asking if there was more to the story, and honestly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Should I tell you what happened when I actually left that day? But here's the thing that really gets me. They said it like missing my graduation ceremony was no big deal. Like watching me walk across that stage, hearing my name called out with honors, seeing me receive the diploma I'd worked 4 years for was just some optional event they could skip for a more convenient celebration later. I stood there in that kitchen, still in my pajamas, watching my mom arrange fruit on a platter for my sister's impromptu party, and something inside me just snapped. "You know what?" I said, and my voice sounded weird and calm even to my own ears. "Don't worry about dinner." "What do you mean?" Emma asked, and for the first time, she looked a little uncertain. I mean, have your party, celebrate Emma's news, but don't worry about celebrating mine. I turned around and walked back upstairs, ignoring Mom calling after me. I could hear them talking in hushed voices in the kitchen, probably wondering what my problem was, why I couldn't just be happy for my sister and go along with their plan. My room. I sat on my bed and called Sarah. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, ready for the big day? She said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Sarah, I said, and my voice cracked a little. Can I ride with you and your family to graduation? There was a pause. Of course, but what about your parents? They're not coming, I said, and saying it out loud made it real in this horrible way. What do you mean they're not coming? So I explained the whole thing to her, and I could practically hear her jaw dropping through the phone. Are you kidding me right now? She said when I finished. They're skipping your graduation for a High School Musical audition celebration? Apparently so. Okay, you know what? Forget them. My parents have been treating you like a daughter for 4 years anyway. Mom already bought you a lei for the ceremony and everything. We're picking you up in an hour, and that's exactly what happened. I got dressed in my beautiful outfit, did my makeup perfectly, and when Sarah's family arrived, her mom took one look at me and pulled me into the biggest hug. We are so proud of you, sweetie, she said, and I almost started crying. Right there, the ceremony was beautiful. I walked across that stage with my head held high, and when they called my name with summa cum laude honors, Sarah's whole family cheered like I was their own kid. Her dad took about 1 million pictures, and her mom kept telling everyone around us that I was graduating with the highest honors. Afterward, we went to lunch at this little Italian place, and they made me feel like the most important person in the world. Sarah's little brother even made me a card that said, "Congratulations on being a genius," with a drawing of me in my cap and gown. But the whole time, there was this hollow feeling in my chest, because as wonderful as Sarah's family was, they weren't mine. My own parents were at home, eating cake and celebrating my sister's understated news, while I was hitting this major milestone completely without them. When I got home that evening, the house was still full of Emma's friends. There were balloons everywhere, music playing, and everyone was laughing and having a great time. I walked in through the front door in my graduation dress, carrying my diploma, and I swear the whole room went quiet for like 5 seconds before the conversation started up again. Mom came over to me with this bright, forced smile. How was graduation? We saved you some cake. I looked at her, then at Dad, who was grilling burgers on the back patio like it was just any other Saturday, then at Emma, who was holding court in the living room, telling everyone about her upcoming role. It was fine, I said. Great. Let me get you a plate. We've got burgers and potato salad and... I'm not hungry, I said. I already ate. I went upstairs to my room and closed the door. I sat there for a long time, still in my graduation dress, holding my diploma and trying to figure out how I felt. Mad, definitely. Hurt, absolutely. But also something else, something that felt like clarity. I realized that this wasn't just about missing graduation. This was about a pattern I'd been too close to see. How Emma's art shows always took priority over my science fairs. How her drama rehearsals were sacred, but my study groups could be interrupted for family errands. How her B+ report cards got celebrated with dinner out, while my straight A's got a "good job, honey," and an expectation that I'd keep it up. I'd spent so long being the responsible one, the one who didn't make waves, the one who understood when things had to be rearranged, that I'd never noticed how I'd become invisible in my own family. Update. Okay, you guys are seriously the best. I'm reading every comment, and honestly, some of you are making me tear up with how supportive you're being. A lot of people are asking what I did next, and whether I confronted them that night. The answer is, sort of, but not in the way you might think. That night, after Emma's friends left and the house finally got quiet, I made a decision. I didn't yell or throw a fit or demand an apology. Instead, I went downstairs where Mom and Dad were cleaning up the party mess, and I told them I was moving out. What do you mean moving out? Dad asked, pausing with a stack of paper plates in his hands. I mean, I'm 22 years old, I just graduated college, and I'm going to find my own place. But honey, Mom said, you're starting grad school in the fall. It makes more sense to stay here and save money. I'll figure it out, I said. They both looked genuinely confused, like they couldn't understand why I would want to leave. Emma was sitting at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone, but I could tell she was listening. Is this about today? Mom asked. Because we can talk about that. Maybe we could have handled things differently. Maybe, I said, and I kept my voice really calm. Mom, you missed my college graduation. Dad, you've never missed one of Emma's performances, not even her middle school talent show where she forgot half the words to her song, but you missed my graduation. We were going to celebrate with you tonight, Dad said, at a restaurant, after celebrating Emma all day, like an afterthought. The word hung in the air between us, afterthought, because that's what I realized I'd become. That's not fair, Emma said, finally looking up from her phone. It's not my fault I got good news today. You're right, I said. It's not your fault. And I'm happy for you, Em, I really am. But this isn't about today. This is about me realizing that I've been the backup child for a long time, and I don't want to do that anymore. I went back upstairs and started packing. Not everything, just enough for a few weeks while I figured things out. I'd been saving, money from my part-time job for months, and I had enough for a deposit on a small place. The next morning, I loaded up my Honda Civic with boxes and garbage bags full of my stuff. Mom kept trying to talk me out of it, saying I was being dramatic, that we could work things out. Dad just stood there looking uncomfortable, like he wanted to say something but didn't know what. Emma stayed in her room the whole time. I hugged them both goodbye, told them I loved them but needed some space, and drove away. I found a tiny studio, apartment across town, barely bigger than my dorm room, but it was mine. I got a job at a coffee shop to supplement my savings, and I started building a life that didn't revolve around being the invisible child. For 3 months, I didn't call them. They called me, constantly at first. Mom would leave these long voicemails about how sorry they were, how they missed me, how they wanted to make things right. Dad would send short texts asking if I was okay, if I needed money, if I wanted to come home. Emma sent me exactly one text 2 weeks after I left. I hope you're not doing this because of me. I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I needed time to figure out who I was when I wasn't constantly accommodating everyone else's needs. I needed to see if they would actually miss me, or if they would just adjust to having one less person to work around. And honestly, it was the best 3 months of my life. I made friends at the coffee shop. I started painting again, something I'd given up in high school because I didn't have time between studying and helping with Emma's various activities. I learned to cook real food, not just ramen and cereal. I felt like myself for the first time in years. Which brings us back to yesterday, and that frantic knocking on my door. I stood there looking at my parents through the peephole for a long minute before I opened it. They looked older somehow, tired. Mom's hair was a little grayer and Dad had lost some weight. "Hi," I said, opening the door but not inviting them in. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom said, and her voice was shaky. Can we talk?" I looked at them for a moment, then stepped aside to let them in. My studio is tiny, so we all ended up sitting awkwardly close together, me on my little couch, them on the 2 chairs I'd bought at a thrift store. "How did you find me?" I asked. "Sarah's Mom," Dad admitted. "We ran into her at the grocery store and she mentioned you were working at that coffee place on 5th Street. We've been driving around the neighborhood looking for your car." "We miss you," Mom said, and she started crying. "We miss you so much, and we know we messed up." "Emma's been miserable," Dad added. "She says the house feels empty without you." I wanted to feel good about that, wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad that it had taken them 3 months and me disappearing to realize what they'd lost. "We want you to come home," Mom said. "We want to make this right." "How?" I asked. They looked at each other, and I could see they'd practiced this conversation. "We're sorry," Dad said. "We're so sorry we missed your graduation. We're sorry we made you feel like you weren't important. We know we haven't been fair to you," Mom added. "We know we've taken you for granted." "Emma wants to apologize too," Dad said. "She's been asking us to bring her, but we thought we should talk to you first." I sat there looking at them, these people who raised me, who I loved despite everything, and I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. The white-hot rage that had carried me out of their house 3 months ago was gone, replaced by something quieter but stronger. "I appreciate the apology," I said finally. "I really do, but I'm not ready to come home." "What do you mean?" Mom asked. "I mean, I like my life here. I like who I am when I'm not constantly trying to make myself smaller so everyone else can be bigger." Update. This is probably my final update unless something major happens. Thank you all so much for following this journey with me. Your comments and support have meant more than you know. For those asking if I think I'm being too harsh, here's how I see it. "But we love you," Mom said, and she was really crying now. "We've always loved you." "I know you love me," I said, "but love isn't enough if it doesn't come with respect, and you haven't respected me or my achievements or my feelings for a long time." "We can change," Dad said. "We can do better." "Maybe." "You can. I hope you can. But I need to see it, not just hear it." We talked for another hour. They told me about how Emma's musical went, how she'd dedicated her final performance to me. They told me about how quiet dinners had become, how they'd started noticing all the little ways I'd contributed to the family that they'd never acknowledged. Mom had even framed my graduation photo and put it on the mantle, right next to Emma's homecoming pictures. It was a start, but it wasn't enough to make me pack up my life and go back to being the accommodating daughter who never made waves. "What can we do?" Mom asked finally. "What do you need from us?" "Time," I said. "I need you to respect that I'm building something here, and I'm not ready to give it up. I need you to understand that I might never be ready to come home, and that doesn't mean I don't love you." Can we see you sometimes?" Dad asked. "Maybe take you to dinner?" "Maybe," I said. "But I want you to meet me where I am, not expect me to come running back because you've decided you're ready to appreciate me." They left a little while later, but before they went, Mom handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "It's from Emma," she said. "She wanted us to give it to you." After they left, I opened it. Inside was a letter in Emma's careful handwriting and a check for $500. The letter said, "I know this doesn't fix anything, but I've been saving up my babysitting money because I wanted to pay you back for all the times you covered, for me when I forgot to do chores, or helped me with homework, or let me borrow your clothes. I never said thank you for any of that. I never said thank you for being the best big sister, even when I was too selfish to see it. I'm sorry I never stuck up for you. I'm sorry I let them make you invisible. I miss you every day, and I understand if you can't forgive us yet. But please don't disappear forever. The house isn't home without you. I cried reading that letter. Not the angry, frustrated tears I'd cried the day of graduation, but the kind of tears that come when something broken inside you starts to heal just a little bit. I don't know what's going to happen with my family. Maybe we'll find a way back. To each other, maybe we won't. But I know that leaving was the right choice, because it forced all of us to see what we'd been taking for granted. 3 weeks later, Emma texted me asking if she could visit my apartment. Just her, no parents. I said yes, and she came over with Thai takeout and spent the evening asking me about my job, my painting, my life. She looked around my tiny studio with these wide eyes and said, "You did all this by yourself?" "Yeah," I said. "It's not much, but it's mine." "It's perfect," she said. "It's so... you." We talked about everything that night. She apologized again, and this time I could tell she really understood what she was apologizing for. She told me how different things had been at home, how Mom and Dad had started noticing all the ways they'd favored her without realizing it. "They're in therapy now," she said. "Family counseling. They asked the therapist how to make things right with you." What did the therapist say? That they can't undo what they did, but they can do better going forward. And that they have to respect your choices, even if that choice is to stay away. We've been texting regularly since then. She comes over every couple of weeks, and sometimes we go out for coffee or see a movie. It's different than it was before. Better. We're actually getting to know each other as people, not just as the roles we played in our family drama. Mom and Dad have been trying too. They don't pressure me to come home anymore, but they'll text sometimes to ask how I'm doing or to share something they think I'd find interesting. Dad sent me an article about women in engineering last week. Mom sent me a photo of a painting she saw at a gallery that reminded her of something I'd made in high school. Small steps, but steps nonetheless. I'm starting grad school in the fall, and I'm staying in my apartment. I'm keeping my job at the coffee shop because I love my coworkers and the regularity of it. I'm taking an art class at the community center. I'm dating someone I met at work, a guy who thinks my engineering degree is cool and my paintings are beautiful. I'm building a life that's mine, where I matter, where my achievements get celebrated and my feelings get respected. Maybe someday that life will include my family again in a bigger way. Maybe it won't. But either way, I'll be okay. Because the most important thing I learned from all of this is that you can't wait for other people to see your worth. You have to know it yourself, and you have to be willing to walk away from situations that make you forget it. My graduation day didn't go the way I planned, but in a weird way, it was exactly what I needed. It was the day I graduated from being the invisible child and became someone who knows her own value, and honestly, that's worth celebrating.